Ticket sales are now open, so get yours at sa20.co.za. Welcome to Betway SA20. T's and C's apply.
Enjoy the ultimate entertainment with Hollywood Bets' 25 Rand and 50 free spin sign-up bonus. Play games like Hot Hollywood Bets and more. Sign up today and take a spin with Hollywood Bets. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Success looks different for all of us. What we do have in common is our eagerness for a brighter tomorrow. A tomorrow where parents' hope becomes a child's reality. A tomorrow where success is not just owning a degree, it's owning the pathway to the rest of your life. Own tomorrow with Richfield. Study an undergraduate or postgraduate degree online or on campus and get one step closer to a career defined by you. Ayifambeni. Apply today at richfield.ac.za.
Checker 6060 delivers extra deals to make this year 2020 more.
Eating more greens, we've got the bean. Let's go 6060. Back on the clock, there with your stock. Let's go 6060. Filling backpacks, we'll bring the snack. Let's go 6060. Savings are here for the new year. Let's go 6060.
All you need to get your year off to a great start is 60 minutes away.
Let's go 6060.
Sports Night Amplified with Andile on Metro FM. Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Welcome back. And this show is in and around, what we all go through as parents. Just wanting the best for our children in sport. How do we get them in? How do we end up seeing the ones that play? How do they end up there? Very, 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 very often people say to me, it's a money thing, Andile. Even what we saw at the School of Excellence over the weekend, the children that will get picked is because their parents have money and they'll pay. I refuse to think that you have to have money in order for your talent to be recognized. But maybe I live in a bubble that refuses to admit what is glaringly true. Let's speak about, we spoke about the overall arching issues and challenges here, and we'll get back to them, Buti, because I don't think it's a once conversation type thing. But what happened at the School of Excellence that had the whole country, had people like me, when seeing that, gasping and saying, what is that? And many might say, but what's wrong with that? If you're having open trials and you're saying everybody must come, you're giving everybody an opportunity that is equal to say anybody and everybody, regardless of where you come from. It's like a taxi. That can play, bring them to these trials, and it's the luck of the draw. Whoever showcases their talent and gets spotted may play. So what is the issue?
Look, what's happening on Saturday, it's a failure of the system over time. That is no way to identify talent. Talent gets identified over time through processes back home, so that when you come here, you've dealt with the nerves and we know that you are the best of the best where you come from. So what was happening last week, it's more an issue that the coaches have to get 30 kids into a class so that the school can have their quota. It is a very unsatisfactory process. This is happening because Transnet, when I was still at Transnet, I represented football. There was a time when the CEO then of Transnet wanted to exit the school. I had to sit down with him and explain to him the development of the boys and why we don't win, that this thing is a 5-year process where we teach these people first the basics. You have to go through that process. When I left SAFA wanted to put people in. It never got around to putting them in. At the table of Transnet, despite its many challenges, there have been no people to explain football development to SAFA. There are people that should have done that. There are NEC members that were touted to go back and be set with the SAFA, with the Transnet mandaries to do this. They have not done it. I don't know whether they have not done it because they don't understand the development pathway themselves, or they did not get whatever they wanted. But the reality is the teachers and the coaches are left on their own. What I now hear is that School of Excellence is going to be taken over by the Department of Education. I'm not aware of anybody saying to the coaches, this is your pathway, this is how we're going to deal with this thing. The current people are focused on education, teachers, and so on, because it's the Department of Education. this thing has entirely collapsed. What should have happened, what we have asked must happen is you need to have 9 schools of excellences. You need to adopt schools in each regions that are football playing schools, so that like in the old days, the players that are said to be the best, we see them playing day in, day out. So that's why I say, in as much as SAFA is not doing its part, the footballing system in the country has collapsed because kids don't play football day in, day out. Those that do are from the affluent schools, former Model C and private schools. SAFA cannot see them, does not see them. They go elsewhere for their development. If you drive around Johannesburg in Saturday afternoons or around Cape Town, you will see them playing day in, day out. But they don't get into this system. We're going to have a problem 10 years down the line. We're going to be saying, who are these players? Who are all these white players that are... We're going to start our nonsense that we do because we have not done our work.
It's a conversation I've been asking a lot to say where are the... I mean, we're in a democratic country that gives opportunities to all, right? Where the Indian, where the Khalid, where are the mixed race, where are the white kids in our professional football? You can't tell me they don't exist.
It is because generally if you are affluent like their parents, you know that the system at SAFA doesn't work. You had a program now about some SAFA people taking bribes at the development leagues. You don't want to put your kids through that. They don't want to put an effort through all of this process, and then it dies down. It is generally accepted in the SAFA circles that we bribe games. We have NEC members, at least from my province, who can sit in a meeting and say we are going to develop that team. It is the one that will win the league at the end of the season. We have this kind of thinking. The kids get destroyed. Why should we play football in this space? Now, if you are an affluent parent, you are not going to expose your talented football kid to the SAFA system. You will try and find an alternative system. And the view is not to play for Bafana anymore. It's to make money, play in Real Madrid or go and play in the Saudi League and make a living. We're losing a lot of players that could be helping us in the national team because we have messed this whole thing up.
Let's go to the School of Excellence now. The coach there, Lefa Matebula, now joins us on the line. Lefa, thank you so much for joining us, Coach.
Good evening and good evening to the listeners, and thank you for the opportunity.
I hope that that line does hold. I hope that line is going to be steady through this conversation, man. Lefa, you hosted trials this past weekend.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. I mean, from what I've read, you reported that there were 4,158 kids that arrived at 8 a.m. and were there till 8 p.m. 378 kids were being processed per hour. Is this the right way, the right system? Is this how the School of Excellence now functions in getting their talent?
Normally, let me just put it out. Normally, we'll go through different provinces working with SAFA agents to conduct trials. And then within that process, we also have what we call open day trials where people come to the School of Excellence. And at this moment, because we are no longer going out, we are now going to have an influx of people coming to the School of Excellence. And that's why we have an overwhelming attendance this time around.
You know what, this line is not very good, man, Alifa. I'm not sure if you, because it sounds like you're driving, I'm not sure if you can pull over or if you can stop. I did the maths on this thing. You've got 4,158 kids, right, being assessed at 378 kids per hour. That means each kid is given 6 minutes to showcase their talent. That's all you get, 6 minutes, and this is in a game. So if you don't get the ball in that 6 minutes, or if you get it once or twice in that 6 minutes, that's it. That's all you get.
Indeed. And if by some dint, the people you are playing with are from the same team, they don't want to pass to you. We know the story. So it is wholly inadequate. But Lefa and them have to have kids that go into the next class.
I think we've got Lefa back now.
They're quite forced to do this thing.
Let's try this line again. Lefa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Much better, much better. You were still explaining to me, Lefa, because I was talking about 4,158 kids being assessed over 378 kids, a player rather, per hour, which gives each kid about 6 minutes in order to perform in those small-sided games, those 9v9s that you're doing. I look at all of that and I saw the pictures. You know, if you're a kid that gets there at 8 a.m. and you only go on at 1 p.m., were you guys providing food and drinks for them?
No. Normally we don't provide food for trialists. Trialists bring their own food. But let me just correct one thing. Remember, we are not just using 2 or 1 fields. We are using multiple fields. And on average, the players were playing about 10 minutes one way, and then it's 2 halves with immediate change. So that gives you about 20 minutes. So we are using about 7 fields divided into 45 meters by 60. So it's a small-sided game. Well, people will not be satisfied with how we do it, but this is how all these other players have been identified throughout the years.
No, throughout the years, it hasn't been quite like that. Throughout the years, and I've got Booty here who was just telling us how it's always worked. You've always gone to the regions. You've always identified players. Those players then have gone through a regimen in order to pick the very best of the best. It wasn't one day come play 10 by 10 and then let's see who the best is.
No, well, I agree. I think let's put it in context. Remember, the first process that we do is to go to the provinces. So we used to do about 16 SAFA regions per year, and then also included it will be an open day at the School of Excellence. But because you are no longer going out to the provinces, you are not going to have people coming to the School of Excellence, and that's why you are having such large numbers. But in terms of the technical specification, the way we've been doing trials has been done that way. The only difference being that we are not going to the provinces, and this time around we had an overwhelming attendance to.
Which is right, Andile, because if you go into the provinces and you're going all over, you've got 1,000 kids, you've got 500 kids, it's a lot better. We're speaking about over 4,000 kids, and not every kid, you're saying they must bring their own, not every kid can bring their own lunch. There are kids that got there at 8 and only got to take to the field at 4. You can imagine the state of that child. You can imagine, the state of how they're feeling at that time. On top of the nerves and the anxiety that they're feeling, there's hunger, there's all sorts of things. So the fact that, yes, we've done it this way doesn't mean it's right, does it?
Well, I think let's take it this way. This is our reality on the ground. And for those kids, if you were to ask them, if you have an option of not doing the trials or doing them, which ones would you take? And we know they're going to want to do the trials. So in an ideal world, yes, you want to provide food and T-shirts and water and so forth. But at the current moment, with the limited funds, this is the best that we could do to recruit players. And our hearts are bleeding. We can do better, but the circumstances dictated that we do the trials as it is. And there isn't much that we can do as coaches.
How many coaches, professionals, do you have assisting you in assessing these boys?
We had the entire staff, which is 5 coaches, and then we had 2 guys that volunteered to assist. So on the field, there were about 7 coaches that were
assessing 4,000 kids.
Yeah.
You had 5 coaches and 2 assistants. I'm not going to count the assistants. I'm talking about the coaches. 5 coaches assessing almost 4,158 kids over a 12-hour period.
Yeah. Well, it's 7. It's not 5. It's 7 coaches. When I'm saying the ones that are assisting, it means they are not employed at the school, but
7
they are
coaches
themselves. Yeah.
In 12 hours, between 8 and 8, they're standing, they're looking at 4,158 kids who are playing 10 minutes a half each.
Yeah.
This is how we source and find talent.
Like I said, Andile, this is the circumstances we find ourselves under.
I'm just trying to paint the picture. I'm just trying to paint the picture, Lef. I'm not saying it's your fault. You're doing the best of what you've been given.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to paint a picture here to say, even for you, when you hear that, I can listen. I've done television and radio my whole life, right?
Yes.
If you say to me that I must do it for 12 hours, I can guarantee you now, as something that I am very efficient in. I'm very efficient at it, Lefa. But I can tell you now that in the 4th hour, in the 6th hour, I am no longer performing at my best. And I say this to say you might be very efficient at your job as a coach and a scout because you've done it for years. But I can tell you now that in the 4th hour, 6th hour, 8th hour, those kids that you're seeing there is not the same as what you're seeing in the first 3 hours.
Well, I mean, that's human nature. But I'm saying look it from our point of view. You're expecting about 1,000, 1,500 to 2,000 kids. That's been the norm. And suddenly you have overwhelming attendance. Do you then close the gate and say, look, we're only doing 2,000 and that's our capacity? Or you try and process all the players. And for us, it was a commitment that, look, any player that's inside the yard, will give him an opportunity. Of course, there will be those suspicion whether you are, as the day goes by, you are becoming efficient and so forth. The mind gets tired. But at the end of the day, we committed ourselves to say, anyone who's inside the yard, we are going to stay here until we finish. And that's why we finish late. But under ideal circumstances, you should have enough coaches who can rotate, some take a break and so forth. But these are the conditions that we are working under.
I want to dispel some things here, Andile Ncube, because we're getting a lot of texts and calls of people speaking about kids that felt under the weather, that couldn't withstand the circumstances. I don't know whether it was the hunger, the heat, the deprivation of drinks, maybe. Somebody even speaking about kids, 3 of them, who passed on from the trials on their way from Bethlehem because they traveled all the way from Bethlehem. Do you know anything about any of those?
Yeah, no. Also, let's also pass our condolences. I did speak to the 3 parents. The accident happened somewhere, I think they say R26 on their way back. So it was after the event. Yeah, but in terms of, there are people that came in, and of course, because of the sheer numbers, they might have left earlier without trialing. But the reality of the matter is that anyone who was there, we were able to process them until we finish, even under floodlights. Then I'm saying it's not an ideal circumstances, but when the attendance is huge, you are forced to go all the way. I mean, under normal circumstances, we could have said let's pre-register, but again, people will still be complaining that you are denying grassroots players an opportunity. So perhaps maybe as the guest there said that if we have more schools, it might prevent the influx from other provinces into Gauteng, into one venue. So
the message,
we try our best there.
That message coming from Tony Masego says, I trust this finds you well. As you'll be interviewing the founder, who will speak to you in just a couple of minutes, is Neil Tovey, of course. Can you guys send condolences to the families of the 3 kids who passed away returning from the trials there from Bethlehem? And this is because now everybody in the provinces has to get into a car, put kids in a car, drive all the way to Gauteng, drive back to wherever it is they might be from. They were driving from Bethlehem when the incident and the accident happened. And once again, it's not you, Lefa. We're just trying to paint a picture here of what's happened, and it's a sad one. But this is what we're speaking about. Now we've got 3 kids who one day had hopes of Bafana. Instead of coming home and saying to the parents, we go into the School of Excellence, their parents are preparing for funerals.
And the cards that we have dealt, Lefa, are simply because we have not put resources in the right place. We know that we spend resources on some place where we are now not doing anything on the outskirts of Soweto. These things are not correct. And we are now putting a person like Lefa in a tight spot as if it is him who's created this problem.
And hence we're stretching to say it is not Lefa. He's merely a worker, like me and you here, doing the best he can.
And like I said before, we went to the regions precisely to minimize this kind of risk of traveling at night, post-fatigue and all of these things. This is where we are now. And it is not that we don't have the resources in this country to do this. It is just that we are not properly focused to do this. Now we have kids that have passed on, and let's pass our sincere condolences to the parents and to the families of these kids who had a dream that they will go and play football. They were pursuing their dreams. These are the things that we shouldn't do, and this is where we have collapsed the School of Excellence. But then again, the School of Excellence is not on its own in the entire collapse of our football ecosystem, if you think about it, especially from the developmental side. This is a problem that we need to really look at and say, how do we fix it? We will always have talented players, but if we don't polish that talent, it can't stand up at the time when the competition is on the heat to win things. We do that very well in cricket, in rugby, in swimming and elsewhere. We don't do it in football. It's the same kids. It's the same gene pool. It's not as if it's other people coming from anywhere. We in football have not been doing things right because we are sticking with the old. And we need to change.
If you send your child to these trials, please go with them, because there was another incident at Panorama Trials where a child passed on because they sat in the heat. They were hungry, anxious, and all of those things. A 15-year-old collapsed during the trials and passed on. So situations like that are not situations that we'd like to come across. But if you're a parent or a person who's in charge of kids, a coach, whatever, wherever it is that you're staying, please reach out to us now and speak to us on 086-000-2160 or send us a WhatsApp on 060-552-7303. Now, one of the people that knows all too well about the School of Excellence, when Neil Tovey founded the school, one of the people he called on to say, come and be a part of this because you've got a neck for this and you can do it. And he was part of founding some amazing players. Is Kevin Johnson, who's now the coach out at Kaizer Chiefs. We reached out to Kevin and have a listen to what Kevin had to say about this particular issue.
Hi, Timothy. I don't know if this will help you, my friend, but regarding the school, the starting line, I think, is to do with how we started the school. The school was actually started by Neil Tovey, and the coaches involved was Sam Mbata, Farouk Khan, Mandla Mazibuko, Zunaid Mal, and Kevin Johnson. In saying that, I think the first crop of players brought in by the school was probably only about 40 children or 40 boys. And going forward, how the boys were selected was always the school going out to the different provinces, and this was always led by Sam, going out to the different provinces and selecting particular players within the province to maintain the intake, and the boys that were leaving the school that had finished their matric or had either been promoted to some of the PSL teams within South Africa at the time. But that's how we selected players, and that's how we selected players for the future. We never brought them to the school for trials. We always went out to the different provinces in order to make sure that the representation within the school had at least 1 or 2 children from the 9 provinces that we have in South Africa. So in a nutshell, that is how we selected players going forward from the initial plus minus 40 children that started the school under the management of Neil Tovey, Farouk Khan, Sam Mbata, Manda Mazibuko, Zunaid Mal, myself, Ted Dumitru. That's how the school started. So I hope this answers your question, and I hope it gives you a lot of insight as to how the school actually started. Thank you.
Appreciate it there. Kevin Johnson, coach at Kaizer Chiefs, of course, one of the founding coaches out at the School of Excellence. Now, the brains behind it all, former captain of Bafana Bafana and Kaizer Chiefs, Neil Tovey, joins us now. Neil, thank you so much for talking to us and welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, but also condolences to the families of the kids. Sad news, although we don't know too much particulars, but very, very sad news,
I mean, Neil, we speak glowingly of the School of Excellence whenever we did because of, just the churning out of some great players in this country. But you look at the situation from this past weekend, I'm pretty sure the furthest thing from your mind when you sat there at those Transnet offices many, many years ago and said, I have a vision.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you that you need to have things done correctly and properly and effectively. Whether a club wants to hold trials or anyone wants to hold trials, you cannot have that number of kids. How do you look effectively well, and how do you choose effectively well about so many numbers of kids? You cannot do it. It's not feasible. It's not possible. And that's why when we first started, a lot of the kids, as been mentioned, were pre-selected from, first of all, the Neil Tovey football clinics that I had, the 17 football clinics that I had around the country in the different provinces. So that effectively gave us a start and some way of the highly talented kids that were based around the country. So it has to be done with effective management. It can't just be done ad hoc, and that's where people don't quite understand.
But and I don't want to say where did it go wrong, Neil, because the fingers keep getting pointed at in the same direction. But how do we then move forward? How do we resolve this? How do we have talent finding missions in this country not be a mission and perhaps a planned funeral for parents?
Okay, the effect, why it was so effective is that the management of the whole project was really, really effective. From the first person with John Smith, I've got to commend John Smith because he heading up a school, Esland Park, which was a Transnet facilities that they then educated their own Transnet people, and they had facilities, sporting facilities. So they had living quarters for the boys and everything. So it was done effectively from the management there, and I was the GM of the school. And then you had really, really talented coaches. As you know, a lot of them have even gone into the PSL and headed up top PSL teams and the coaching structures. And Farouk Khan has his own development structure. So they obviously learned from that whole perspective of how to manage an effective school of excellence or academy, for that matter. And there are processes that have to be put in place. We also had to register as a private school, and we brought on Steve Pillar to head up the teaching side and acquired educated teachers to give these kids a really balanced life of education and football. So it was effectively managed very, very, very well. And it's a pity that and this country needs each one of those in every province. If we can get a school of excellence in every province, we'll be churning out talent, not just for the local clubs, but in the overseas market, and have the caliber of the South African Bafana player at a much higher level.
Neil Tovey, listen, we need to have this conversation properly when we're not reflecting on a weekend and not speaking specifics, but speaking entirely about development and perhaps sharing the good news story over the years that is the School of Excellence. But thank you so much for always taking our call. We really appreciate it here on Metro FM.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That is Neil Tovey, the brains and the founder of the School of Excellence. I'd like to hear from you. Booty is still here with me. We're going to keep Liffer as well with us. Chiwas, the calls are just going crazy because I can imagine there's a story for everyone. I can imagine it. I mean, I've done trials with my daughter, Araceli, who plays netball. The trials for provincial, the trials for Gauteng, the trials for circuit, and I can tell you now, it's not this painful. It's not this painful. She gets a couple of rounds of playing with other girls. As a young man, I did trials as well, trying to get my feet into football. And never did I ever worry about anything. But here we are. Let's take a course. Timmy, we're going to go straight into it. We're not going to take a break here. Let's go straight into it because there's not much time and I'd like to cover as many as possible. If we can try and keep it as brief so we can take as many as possible, I really would appreciate it so that we can try and ascertain where it is that we are. So let's go straight into it. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Trevor.
Hey, yes it is. Talk to me.
Trevor here. How are you?
I'm good.
Look, recently I took one of my boys to Solomon Masango where TS Galaxy are having trials on the 6th and the 7th.
I remember that, yes. TS Galaxy had trials in Mpumalanga, yeah.
To pay the pay. Firstly, we have to pay. You needed to pay 300.
Oh, you know what? This line is not great. But I remember TS Galaxy announcing that they're going to be having trials. I think it was for their development as well as, of course, if anything, for their senior team. And you're right. They were charging. I had forgotten how much it is, but it seems the number you're saying, there's $300. is how much they were charging. And that went against everything I've ever said to parents whenever they ask. Because I've always said, if they ask you to pay, don't go. It's a scam. But this was real. This was TS Galaxy. I remember them having tweeted that. But let's go to Taba in Val. Taba.
Hi, it's Andile Ncube from the Val, right?
Yes.
So I was there on Saturday. What was happening was it was unacceptable. You got a feeling that these guys already had their own players before our children could even try it. The reason why I'm saying this, I'm going to just raise two major points. The first one, when we got there at 7:30 in the morning, when the registration started, there was no one from the school. Maybe there was one official from the school itself. And then all the parents, including myself, we had to help register the children. And what I noticed about registering the children, I was one of the guys registering. Even if you write a wrong number of the parent that they're supposed to be calling back, if the child did well, no one cares because it's just a rushed process where you're just filling in the forms for the players to go and play. And then secondly, my child eventually got to trial around 12:30 during the day. I was there. I was watching the so-called scout the whole time. The game, they played 2 hours of 12 minutes, which was 24 minutes. Probably in the 24 minutes, he only watched the game for 3 or 4 minutes. The whole time he was watching the other way, he was watching, doing his own things, and I was sitting there literally just watching him to see if he is identifying talent, is he taking something on the paper that he's got. So you could see that it was just a paper process where we just had to be there, but they have their own people. So that's my humble opinion. Thank you, Andile.
Appreciate it. Let's go to Bangal out in Cape Town. Hello? Bangal.
Hello?
Hey, talk to me.
Sure, how's it?
I'm very well. How are you? Talk to me, man. We're speaking about scouting.
Yeah, no, I was just going to comment on that thing to say, whatever that character was saying is true, man. Looking at the fact that we've been with the likes of, what's his name again? Trump or Canada. There was a time whereby, we're not all given a chance, and then obviously with what the guy was saying, you guys were given 10 minutes each or so, but you end up not having to get a chance to show up what you're good at, and then the next thing you're just told to be to say go home. And then, they leave it like that. So there's many of them that are in that situation now, and of which we are aware about, but you suffer.
Well, thank you very much. That's Teboko out in Turf. I really appreciate that one there. And it seems it's the same thing over and over for parents. I can imagine having to register as a parent all the other children. And if you're not even caring as to, writing numbers for if you find this kid, where do they go? You have no interest in where they are. Timmy, who do we have next? Banele. Banele, hi.
Hi, Banele. It's Banele in Soft. I would like to agree with you with the minutes they are given. Too little. And then two also. There's a lot of kids, the hours they spend there. When you look on from the side as someone who actually takes the kids there, I actually just scout young kids in the townships, and then I look for trials them and I take them there. You look at the coaches sometimes 3-4 hours into the trials, you can see now they are tired. They are not really looking. You see, and also when the kid you brought, maybe he's playing as a midfielder. If they are short in defense, then they take him to defense or striker. So now he's playing on another position for the first time, and he's already nervous for coming to the trials. I really think that we must look at other ways to scout these kids, because the 10 minutes is too little.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I want to play just a couple of voice notes. Guys, listen, I have 4 kids, ne? Leave them with me for the day. After 2 hours, I don't want my own kids. Woody.
They're 5, man.
Look, I'll come back to you now. Let's just play a couple of voice notes before I let Woody close it.
Hi, Andile. I actually just wanted to say there's actually a cup that happens in Cape Town in support of the pipeline of sports called the Bay Hill Premier Cup with sound, which sounds very similar to the School of Excellence. So, I think people mustn't be so disheartened to say there is nothing. I think it's just about knowing when and way more than anything else the opportunities in South Africa lie for the pipeline.
All right, thank you very much. I hope they do. But, I mean, let us know more so we can feed it to those that don't.
Good evening, Andile. I believe grassroots football is dead in South Africa. Right now, development football is all about the money, the money, the money. I'm talking to you right now. I'm from Mogalakwena LFA. We affiliated in October 2023. Even now, we're still waiting for the feature of the LFA to come out. So I just believe that it's all about the money, the money, the money. And we no longer care about youth football in South Africa. So as long as we're still there, our future is doomed. We will no longer have the same Bafana Bafana that we used to have in the past. It's Mkoyani Malome in Mkopane, Amadio.
All right, appreciate it. I want to play one more. Timmy's writing. I don't know what he's writing. So please.
School of Excellence. This is Samo Transnet. This is hopefully Namo Tembisa. I know was Sally in good condition. What's working? Palisade. Kimimbo. Kore what's working? And go high is like go TEF. There were a lot of players who was on go TEF when they was attend.
All right, I needed to come out of that because I need to speak to someone now. We got a text a little bit earlier on, and it took a while to get to him, and we don't have the time. So I want to speak to Nkosi's father, Mr. Nkosi. Mr. Nkosi.
Good day, sir.
How are you, Mr. Nkosi?
I'm fine now, sir.
Mr. Nkosi, we've been trying to get a hold of you. I'm glad that we finally did, although I don't have much time anymore. Firstly, I'd like to pass my condolences to you, and South Africa is listening, and so many parents. Please share the story of your son with us.
Yes, sir, I don't mind sharing the story with you, sir.
What happened, Nkosi?
Let me get a quiet place. Just a sec, please. Like, I need to get a quiet place.
Okay, he's just getting to a quiet place. Nkosi was out in the trials in Panorama and had his son there, 15 years old, who... Well,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dad's son. I'm Dad's father. On Saturday morning, around past 7, that's when I left my son at Panorama Metal Grounds. And I left him there. He was fit, he was okay. He's been training the whole week. Waking up every day at 4:30, he'd be on the streets. Then later on, he'd be doing the skipping and the push-ups and stuff like that, preparing himself for these trials. When I left him, he was...
Yes, I don't want to shortchange you. I don't want us to tell your son's story under duress because we're in a hurry. I want us to tell it fully, and I want you to be able to express yourself. So I'm going to get Timmy to get your number. We're going to call you back, and we're going to tell the proper story on a different day because I get off the air at 7 njengamanje. I think your son deserves your full story to be told. So please allow me to cut it short here before we even get further and allow us to mourn him properly. If you please will allow me that.
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. A grieving father cannot be rushed in telling his son's legacy and story.
I agree. As I step out, football development needs resources. Transnet has gone as far as they can. Others need to step up. We need to have additional school of excellences across the country. But there's a sort of saying, le ha o ka itimametse o tla e bona enwele, but ha re itse gore e nwa eng because safa itimametse maybe e nwa only. We need to fix this nonsense.
Appreciate it. Jeez, I didn't expect us to go that way, but I want to take that story. You know we love our human stories here because we love saluting those that, get out there and try. Because what else? Yeah. Big game this evening. Please join me. SABC 3. It is Egypt versus Ghana. On SABC 1 rather. I'm all over the place now, guys. I'm shook. When you're a parent, when you're a brother, when you're a sister, when things like that happen, you get shook. She's not in the studio. Is she no B? Oh, I'm waiting for Faith to walk in. You know, that's my daily dose of smiles. But she's not with us. She's out in Obi. Do you know where she is? Coronation Park. Okay.
Part of the
Kruger
reason why I
National
came
Park.
here.
Skis. She's out in Kruger National Park. Let's end this show so that one can begin. Faith is up next from the Kruger National Park. I'll see you at 10 o'clock. Please do join us. Pela and so on.
Welcome to the Urban Rhythm Revolution.
Listen,
Metro FM.
I'm the greatest of all time.
For all things urban,
I love this station.
it's where you want to be. Where I want to be.
It's about damn time.
It's the place to be.
How we feeling? Turn up the music.
At the convergence of the melody and rhythm and the voice and the people who can hear it, love it, dance to it, and rejoice. Where the beat is the message and the message upbeat. Where ignorance is erased and information sets the pace. Where ambition is the mission, the destination, inspiration. And the fuel in the tank is pure unleaded perspiration. Because this is where we meet, on the corner of here we are and where we want to be. Metro FM. It's where you want to be. Hold up. It's the touchdown with Tebow Time.
El Vovo Tirango. Yaboni LP in a wish list lap.
That's my wish list. Can you help me?
Ladies and gentlemen, El Vovo Tirango.